Oh, Brandon, I think you're gone already. A half a second in. I'm going to have to pod by myself, I think. Well, everybody, if there are people on here right now, oh, he's back.
Yeah, we're live, and I already
Chris!
Hey, Chris, he made it. I'm so excited.
I was like, do I have to do this whole thing by myself? Because I thought you disappeared. And well, Brandon disappeared for a second, and you weren't here yet. I was like, all right, I'm ready to do a solo giveaway pod here.
Yeah, we have a wonderful storm outside the house right now where my lights are flickering and my internet's in and out. So I'm working on the hotspot right now. Should work out okay. Should be good. But so apologies ahead of time. Welcome to our Scott Fishbowl bonus giveaway live stream episode of the Most Accurate Podcast. Brandon Niles here, one of the hosts. I'm stoked I get both my awesome co-hosts today at the same time, Jen Eakins and Chris Allen. Jen, how you doing tonight?
I am doing great. I'm excited that the three of us get to hang. It doesn't happen. So I'm excited. Yeah,
me too. Chris, buddy, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I actually get to see you in person because every time that we normally record together, we do it on Zencastr. No, not Zencastr, TriCast, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Either way, I don't get to see your lovely face, so I'm glad to see you. And then, of course, Jen, who has been my wonderful editor for my entire time at 4for4. This is like the first time we've ever done a show together, which is wild to me.
Really?
Yeah. I think it may be, which is really weird. Yeah.
Well, we have to do this more then. We have to get the two of you paired up together more frequently. So, yeah. Jen suffers through my writing all the time as well. So she's really a saint. She's really a saint. Stop. So we're going to offer an opportunity to win an entry into Scott Fishbowl 11 tonight, as we've announced on Twitter and discussed. All you need to do is tell us in the chat what kicker you're pounding the table for heading into next season. So I'll keep an eye on the chat. Just mention that which kicker you're going to pound the table for next season. Mention your Twitter handle, too, so that I can get in touch with you after the fact to get you the entry. And then you're into it. I'll write your name down. I'll randomize a winner at the end of this episode, which will end at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time in just a hair under a half an hour. Jen, as a seasoned Scott Fishbowl participant, our resident kicker aficionado, why are we interested in kickers specifically on this episode? Why did I choose kickers for the pounding the table?
I'm not sure why you chose them, but I'll tell you why I'm interested and excited about kickers in Scott Fishbowl. Several reasons, right? First reason is the anti-kicker brigade, of course, is always around, right? So you've got a huge segment of the fantasy population that straight up hates them, won't even think about them, won't even look at them, right? So there's a huge segment that aren't even going to draft them. They don't care, right? But then you also have, when you look at the actual numbers, you see that they're viable options for Scott Fishbowl this year. I mean, looking, I wrote a piece earlier and talking about kickers. You've got a bunch. So you've got the first two kickers from last season, which was Jason Sanders and Koo, right? They came in last year basically as I think a tight end 2. Oh, I'm on the wrong article. I'm trying to look at my numbers here and I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. So basically the top 2 kickers last year in Scott Fishbowl scoring would have come in as an RB3, a wide receiver 2, or a tight end 3. Right? That's pretty good numbers. And you're looking at, people are going to be taking, wide receiver 6s and 7s and running backs that are probably get 8 touches the whole season over kickers. And I just think they're missing out on those points. Plus you also have, of course, kickers, yes, they do get injured. A la, what was it? Martin Gramatica, whoever, they get injured. Yeah. They get injured celebrating and whatnot. But for the most part, kickers are solid. Right. And so I think, even if you look at, I'll go beyond those 2, right? Just for context, the next 14 kickers in Scott Fishbowl scoring still landed as a tight end 2, an RB4, and a wide receiver 5 based on last season's scoring, which is pretty much the same as this season's scoring. So I think ignoring kickers, I think is really not a smart move. And I think a lot of people in this thing will, because they're so on that, I hate kickers, they suck, it's too random. And they won't actually look at those numbers and realize that, hey, in those later rounds, when you're grasping at straws anyway, you might as well take guys that are going to put points on the board every week.
Chris, I think that makes a lot of sense, Jen. I'm excited to kind of rock some kickers in Scott Fishbowl, and like you said, instead of taking somebody who may not see the field like a Justice Hill or somebody like that in years, I think I'm talking about 2019 fantasy when I bring up Justice Hill, but a couple years behind. But those types of players that maybe you're hoping see the field at all, you snatch a kicker or something along those lines. Chris, I know you're not often asked to pound the table for a kicker. That's not usually the position that people ask you advice on. But since here we are, discussing kickers because of the value they have in Scott Fishbowl, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pound the table. Find yourself a kicker that you're into.
So I had to think about this quite a bit, and I don't know if this is going to be the right guy or not, but here's at least my thought process for winding up on selecting a kicker. We already know that the teams that, like the good teams, right? The Chiefs and like most of those guys, like the kickers attached to those offenses are going to be taken like fairly early. But I'm thinking of a guy that's at least on a good team, might be drafted a little bit later, let's say around like the kicker 10 area or whatever, also attached to a good offense, but it could be at least somewhat volatile because we don't know at least the status of their quarterback. I'm thinking about Greg Zuerlein, who's attached to Dallas. So right now, I mean, Zuerlein's going about, at least I did a quick check on FFPC since they typically use kickers, like unless you're doing the slim leagues, but he's going around like the 10th kicker selected. But he's one of those guys, I mean, that's attached to a good offense. We know that at least with Dak back, they're going to be scoring quite a few points. I think they were 4th in offensive yards per drive back in 2019 before Dak went down. So also top 10 in yards per drive, points per drive. So this is a kicker attached to a good offense that you can get fairly late. So if you're not going for like the Harrison Butkers or like the Justin Tuckers, I mean, any of those guys that are currently going like fairly high, even like who's the guy that's kicking for the Bucs? Is that Matt Gay still, or Suckup? Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. So if you miss out on any of those guys, then I think Greg Zuerlein could be one of those guys that you can take that comes like in that tier right after those like highly popular kickers.
I like it, Chris. I'm on board with Zuerlein this year as well. And plus, I mean, the guy's solid anyway.
Yeah. We had a conversation with Denny Carter. When was that, Brandon? Like maybe a couple months ago or something like that. And just, I mean, without any context whatsoever, Denny had to insert his kicker takes like into the conversation, but he recommended, like he came out at the beginning of this offseason saying that Zuerlein was one of the kickers that folks should be targeting in drafts. So he's definitely one of the guys that's like high on my target list right now.
We got Brett saying the Bucs kicker is going to be Jose Borregales from Miami. So, have you heard of him, Jen? No, Jen doesn't believe you.
No.
Uh-oh.
I'm not on board with Jose Borregales. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. He may be. I haven't seen anything about him though. But I haven't been too deep in the kicker world. I was a little earlier. I recorded the 4-minute pod this morning with Sal and found myself in a small rabbit hole of trying to figure out who the Browns kicker was going to be. Because they're right now, they have a little competition between Parkey and Chase McLaughlin. So that was kind of. But as far as my kicker, I don't know if do you want me to pound the table for a kicker, Brandon? Or
of course, I want you to pound the table for a kicker.
How can we have her on and not give her a kicker take? Come on now,
that's right.
Well, the thing is, it's funny about this is that, and I'm definitely pro kicker. But one of the reasons I am pro kicker is for the streaming aspect. So I don't really pound I don't pound the table for kickers. I don't usually draft one of those high kickers because they'll go and I won't take a kicker till the last round anyway, and they'll usually go before that. So I love to stream them. I think that it's an advantage that you have throughout the season. So, but I will pound anyway. I'm going to pound the table for Tyler Bass. I know he's not a sleeper or anything like that, but I think that he was kicker 4 last year. And, one of the things that I look for are teams that are heavily favored, high team implied totals. So the Bills have 11 games right now that they're favored by 5 points or more. 9 of those are home games, which is basically every single home game at their stadium. I think it's Highmark Stadium. I had to look it up. I was like, huh? But yeah. So anyway, 9 of their every single home game, they're favored by 5 points or more. It's a high-scoring offense. So, I mean, if you're going to roll with one for the whole season, I think Bass is definitely one of those guys.
Tom Sturdivant in the chat agrees with you. Tyler Bass is his kicker that he's found at the table before. I'm going to go with Jason Sanders. We've got an entry for that as well Jason Sanders. Brett Burrito came out with that. Part of it is diehard Dolphins fan here. The other aspect here is,
Homer.
all-pro kicker, first-team all-pro, 92.3% last season. He missed 2 extra points in his entire 3-year career. I think they're emerging on offense. Tua's got weapons now. I think they're going to move the ball down the field. And like both of you said, I tend to try to find somebody attached to an offense that I think can move the ball. I don't worry too much about whether or not that offense can punch it in the end zone at all. I'm just hoping that they get down in that part of the field enough to give an opportunity. I think the Dolphins are going to do it this year. I think that offense is rising. So I'm a big fan of Jason Sanders, not just as a homer, but that's the kicker that I'm going to be pounding the table for. Am I crazy, Jen?
No, God, no, not at all. He's a great option. He's solid. He was very consistent last year. I was just kidding about the homer. And it's funny, speaking of homer, I see a couple people in the chat chanting for Rodrigo, and I went to UGA. I'm a huge Rodrigo fan. I couldn't pound the table for him because I pounded the table for him all last season, so I have to lay off a little bit. But as far as the chat goes, I do like Rodrigo, and I will take him when I can as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I kept telling you I was going to get you the rec specs like he wears all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, I got to get you.
I love Rodrigo, and I think. And listen, he wasn't drafted. People didn't even think he was going to, make the team. I knew he would. He's solid, and he is good. I'm a little concerned about the Colts offense. I mean, as we all should be, I guess, a little bit. So I don't know that I don't know. But I will take him when needed.
Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what Scott Fishbowl is, expanding on what Jen mentioned earlier with the scoring and the kicker, but just in general, what Scott Fishbowl is, both promotionally and colloquially, like your experiences?
So I would say that from my personal experience, like the Scott Fishbowl has basically been like one of the largest events within the fantasy community. And this will be my 4th year, I believe, that I'll be joining, or at least I've been invited to the Scott Fishbowl League. And it's definitely one of those, I know that most folks have been using the GIF, but like that scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when Charlie opens up the piece of chocolate and he sees the golden ticket in it. It's exactly like that. When you get your invite from to go into the Scott Fishbowl, it's almost exactly that same feeling, because there's just so many folks that are a part of that, a part of the league. I mean, it's not just industry folks. It's also, there are actors that come into it as well. I mean, sometimes under pseudonyms, but sometimes that they just use their regular name. There are new folks that are coming into the industry that you get a chance to meet and sample some of their work and talk to them. It's just fans of fantasy football. Which is to me one of the best aspects of it, because when you're doing, once we get into September, October, November, you really don't get a chance to really interact with folks regarding, at least as an analyst, you don't get a chance to really talk with people that just casually watch sports or just casually interact with fantasy football, because we're writing content 5 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever. So for this, for a chance to talk with them, draft with them, watch how the teams actually interact, or whatever, how the players interact, how the teams actually, if they're vying for an actual spot in the playoffs or whatever, just a chance to be able to do something like that where it brings the entire community together. The proceeds and the donations that all go to Fantasy Cares. All of that, all of the good charity work that Scott Fish has done over the years. We just saw him get the Game Changer Award that was given to him for all the work that he's been doing. What was it last year? Over $50,000 was raised for Fantasy Cares. That was last year. I'm assuming, if not, that already more so is going to get raised for this season. So it's a great thing to be a part of for multiple aspects, whether you just want to be a larger part of the community, you want to network with other people, you want to meet other folks that are also interested in fantasy football just like you. It's definitely one of those tournaments that really allows you to do that. And then on top of that, the strategy portion, Scott puts a ton of time into tinkering with the scoring system to make it so that it's not just a regular snake draft like you would in any best ball league or home league or anything like that. It makes it entertaining. It makes it so you really do have to think about your picks beforehand. Just like Jen was talking earlier about kickers outscoring some of the core positions. It really puts in that strategy so that you can't just walk in and say, well, I'm just going to draft Saquon Barkley with my first, or CMC with my first pick, and maybe I'll just wait and grab a wide receiver here, get my quarterback here. No, you do actually have to think about kickers, defense. any of those positions that in some leagues you really just don't care about. Well, no defense with the Scott Fish, but still, it's just, it makes you think. You get to have some fun while doing it. the prize is definitely like the prizes that are part of it. I mean, then the donations and contributions that other sites also provide as well. I mean, it's just a great thing to be a part of. And while I've only made it to the playoffs once, I think it was like my very first season. Still, I mean, just the fact that you get invited, you get to be a part of it, and then actually just do all the other things that become a part of it. Like, I don't know, have you guys done the AVI makers, or like had your own like personalized like AVI like made or whatever? You can do that too. I mean, it's just all those little things that pop up that makes the community a lot of fun to be in around this time of the off season when there's really not a lot to talk about other than unless you want to fight about like OTA stuff for videos we see from there. There's not really much else to do. So it's just, I think it's a wonderful way to bring us together in the June, July timeframe. And then once the season gets going, we get to see how all the teams and stuff react.
I absolutely agree. And I think, you were talking about the strategy and the scoring, and it's crazy. Like you said, you can't just walk in with your normal cheat sheet and be like, all right, I'm good to go. Because it's like, it's super flex. It's points per reception. It's points per first down. It's, negative points for picks. It's, and this year he added returners. I mean, it's not, you don't get return yards, but you get return touchdowns. So, I mean, I don't know how much that really factors in, but, it's like, it's one of those things you have to really it messes with your mind, and it's really cool. I think it's aside from, like you said, the charity and bringing everyone together, it's cool. I mean, this is, I believe, my 6th year, and, I still have, we still joke around about, divisions 3 years ago with people that, are in the fantasy, community. So I think it's great. And I think that, as I said, the addition of kickers is pretty fun.
This third round reversal thing, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. I haven't done too many leagues that employ that particular setting or whatever. So I'm really going to think about because I don't know, you guys have early draft slots or late draft slots? I forget.
I'm late. I'm 12.
Okay. I've got 4. No, either 4 or 7 or something like that. But it's like relatively early. So I don't know really how to approach it. Like I've seen some articles that have been written on how you navigate third round reversal type drafts, but I'm still going to have to play around with do a couple of mock drafts, maybe see how things turn out before I can really get a handle on it. But we've only got a few weeks before the draft actually starts.
I was under the impression that third down reversal was a different way. And then yesterday I kind of got in a conversation with a couple people on Twitter, and then Scott chimed in. So I guess it's really, when you look at it, it's more of it should be called, I guess, odd round reversal, right? Because it's every other round then reverses after the third, right? Is that, so you go 1 through 12, and 12 through 1, and then, so basically I'm picked 12. So I'm going to have 12, 13, and then I'm going to have 25, right? But then I assume, so then it goes again, and then in the 5th, is that how that works? I don't know. It's kind of confusing. But, I kind of have, I know we're a couple of weeks away. I've got kind of my first 3 rounds planned, just because I said I am in the 12 spot. So
I'm not going to ask you for your strategy. You don't want anybody waiting to see what happens and then ghosting you or something like that and sniping all your picks.
Right. No, it's totally fine. I just think it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It's funny because, like you said, I was in the same boat. I think this is my 6th year, and I think the first 2 years I made the playoffs, and then the last 4 last 3 I've been horrible. So, I don't know. And it's interesting because I was in the 12th spot last year, but apparently I'm a glutton for punishment because I picked it again, even though my team was horrible. But I will say this. Last year, I went with the Drew Brees, Michael Thomas stack at the turn, and we all know what happened there. So my team was...
what was it, 2019? I drafted Brees and Ben Roethlisberger. So my team was completely toast by week 5 after basically Ben was out week 1 and then Drew Brees was out for that 6-game stretch or whatever. So my team was absolutely smoked by I was week 5 and I was I don't even know why I'm making waiver claims at this point.
No, whatever. That's funny. So I just want to say real quick in the chat. So Tommy Garrett says the only round reverse is the 3rd.
Yeah, and then everything after that, it just snakes normally.
No, see, that's not true because that's what I thought, and then Scott chimed in yesterday and said that's not true. That was the impression I was under, but I'm pretty sure from what Scott said, and he showed a little screenshot of it. I'm pretty sure that every other round reverses for the rest of it, but I may be wrong again. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not clear, but I know it's not only the 3rd because that's what I thought.
It's not just the 3rd.
It's not because that's what I thought, and then I was told I was wrong. So I would just, we may need a little more clarification for everybody here.
See, so now we got to, So who's gonna write? Okay, so I'm hoping like Luis is probably like watching this right now because I'm wondering like who's gonna write an article on how to navigate third round reversal drafts.
Well, we all know who's going to end up writing that piece, but hopefully
Scott Fishbowl article, so it's got to be Jen, I would think.
That's going to be the follow-up to your wonderful Scott Fishbowl strategy article that's already out.
And there's Luis on cue.
Oh, there it is. See, so he's going to be pinging somebody after this to ask us who's going to write this article that I just brought up. Sorry.
Yeah. No, we just need to. I'm gonna talk to Scott like DM wise and get like legit clarification because I was under the wrong impression and then he chimed in and it was a bunch of people on a Twitter chat and I still left confused. So.
Luis. Hi, Luis. Psalms 22 Samuel asks if stacking makes a difference in Scott Fishbowl. Chris, you have done extensive research on stacking in a variety of different formats. Is stacking an approach that you would take entering Scott Fishbowl?
So I could see the merits of doing something like stacking in a tournament like this, but I wouldn't do like a deep stack because since it's still a managed league, you still have to navigate the bye weeks as well. So I would do that, but it's just you don't have to go like super deep, right? Like if let's say if you're going to try and do a Dallas stack, I wouldn't recommend like possibly doing like all of the like the high value skill position players like for Dallas. Like if you start Zeke, you're not trying to hit like Amari, CD, and then like Dak or something like that. So maybe just like maybe a couple of double stacks like here and there, so that you are capturing quite a bit of a single offense or a couple of offenses. But to go like deep down into a tree, let's say like I said, like the full Dallas stack, a full Cardinal stack or Seattle stack or anything like that will probably wind up hindering you somewhere throughout the season because you are having to navigate the bye weeks and whatnot. So at least that's my knee-jerk reaction. I mean, to thinking on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, I totally agree with that. We do have a question here from TubeSocks000. He wants to know if there's waivers in FFB, which is actually a great question for those who don't know.
And I have to thank TubeSocks because that's an excellent segue because the next thing on my show notes was talk about waivers and our
That's what I was doing, so. Brandon.
No,
I was doing that.
Yeah, and you're phenomenal, Jen. You're phenomenal. This is the added thing here. Absolutely. $100 blind bed budget for waivers all season. Scott Fishbowl. No trading, so that's kind of a different thing. But the blind bid budget is $100 for the season. Jen, how do you approach that budget? Not just in Scott Fishbowl, but in general. You know, when you've got an FAAB to deal with, how do you approach it? Are you an early spender? Are you a big spender? Do you hoard your money? What do you do?
Well, to be fair, Scott Fishbowl and any other league are completely different animals. I mean, Scott Fishbowl is insanity, right? Because you've got 22 rounds. So most people will blow $100 in week one on whoever emerges, right, Chris? I mean, that's pretty much what happens. Yeah. I mean, I am not that way unless I'm really, really screwed. Like if I screwed myself at a position and I absolutely need a quarterback or something like that. In regular, redraft leagues, I'm definitely a little thriftier because it's kind of nice at the end of the season when you're in the playoffs and everyone else is out of money and you can grab people. So I'm a little thriftier. Scott Fishbowl, you kind of have to shoot your shot because there's only a certain amount of players that come available because there are 22 rounds. So it goes super, super deep. So you're only looking at if someone crazy gets injured and like the third round backup all of a sudden is starting. But otherwise, there's not a major reason to save your money in Scott Fishbowl. I don't know. It really depends.
My favorite story of that is 2012, and most people probably don't remember this, but Kevin Ogletree, who was like a journeyman receiver, not any good, busted out against the Giants. He had 8 catches, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that week one, and then everyone blew their entire FAAB on him that after week one. And then the rest of the year
he played for Dallas, didn't he?
Yep, played for Dallas.
Yeah, that was for Dallas. I remember that. Yeah,
he did that for the Cowboys. And that game ended up being like it was like a third or a fourth of his yardage for the entire year, and it was two out of 4 touchdowns were in that game. It's just I love it so much.
Yeah, that happens. And that happens every year. And I think in Scott Fishbowl it definitely happens. I wish I could remember, some of the guys in the past couple of years that's happened where people have just blown like $90 on someone, and then it just it was kind of a one hit wonder week. and they go back to
I know like
reality.
a lot of folks that were left holding the bag after a lot of guys opted out like last season. Like I know for me, like I was all in on Damian Williams, and then when he opted out, like I had to basically like blow half my fab on what was it? I think it was Darrell Williams that I wound up grabbing, and then like a couple other guys that I wound up trying to snag like later on. But it's just when you draft so early in the off season, like those are the things that you have to be able to account for. Now, obviously, I don't think it's going to happen this off season where we would have something like that happen, but injuries and whatnot, it does make some sense to be a bit more thrifty about your waiver priority, like your waiver selections, and not blow everything, because you never know when like Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray like situation happens, and you can grab. I mean, Latavius Murray is going to get drafted anyway, but you know what I'm talking about. Where it's like you can get the running back off of waivers, the backup quarterback off waivers, or something like that, where you just blow all your fab on that one person, and it's just like, all right, so now I just have that one guy, and folks do it that way. I try and do it in that sense where I just make small changes here and there throughout the season, not really try and churn like my entire roster, so that if something big does happen throughout the middle of the season, because generally, if I'm remembering correctly, like a lot of the like catastrophic injuries typically don't happen until week 6, week 7, somewhere in there, I'll at least have the ability to go out and get a guy like that. Whereas other folks that try and like stream or like make changes like each week, they're playing with a lesser purse because they've spent all their stuff like within the first few weeks.
I think I'm sorry, I was just gonna say in Scott Fishbowl specifically this year, I know I personally am gonna try to keep some fab because I would really like to stream kicker if I can. It depends on it. I don't know if anyone in my division is listening, but I'm really hoping that my division blows off kicker and I can grab a couple to start and then kind of stream them as the season goes on based on matchups. Because that's what I do, throughout the regular season and redraft. So kind of hoping that happens. I don't know if it will, but
not now that you said it.
Well, I don't know. I don't see anybody in the chat here in my division so far. So
they're just out in the ether, and this video is going to be on YouTube or something like that, and they're going to know. They're gonna come back.
Know. I think most of the people in my division don't really know me and don't know that I'm a kicker person. So I'm hoping to kind of just keep it on the DL. But no, I think that is one of my strategies, just to try to at least stream, based on matchups if I can. Depending, of course, on how the rest of my roster. I may not even need to start them if I have a fantastic, very highly efficient roster, but that's the in the perfect world.
I'm guilty of the running back thing, and I always do the wrong running back. So like I like Dion Lewis or somebody like that who I think is going to take the carries, or Reggie Bonifant or somebody like that. I'm like, oh, that's going to be the running back, and so I blow a bunch of fab on that, and then and then it ends up being somebody else. So I had a lot of like Dion Lewis and Reggie Bonifant last year, just sitting there and not doing very well for my roster. So unfortunately, Rick said he got Cam Akers down the stretch. I don't think I was in any leagues where Cam Akers was available. Like I feel like everyone held him. Maybe that must have been a shallow league, or Rick is just a savvy drafter there, which is interesting.
I had too many dynasty folks in my division the last time, so all of them were waiting for Akers to pop at some point during the season. There was like zero chance I was going to get him.
That makes sense. Yeah, just crack me up. So we've got 2 minutes left, so we don't really have enough time to like start a brand new topic or anything along those lines. So instead, I'm just gonna do a little promotion for our next episode. We're gonna do a 444th episode of the Most Accurate Podcast. Listeners will have until midnight Eastern Standard Time next Sunday on the 20th to enter to win either a free pro subscription or a 4for4 t-shirt. All you have to do is go to the Most Accurate Podcast, give it a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, screenshot that, and tweet it to @4for4football. You can also go to @4for4football on Twitter. They've talked about this giveaway, and it'll be promoted throughout the week. So this isn't your only opportunity to hear about it. But that's a great opportunity when I'm excited to celebrate the 444th episode. Jen's going to be on. Justin Edwardson's going to join us. Chris is going to record a little something for me. We've got other staff members interaction. It's going to be a fun time. And John and Anthony Stalter will be on the podcast to announce the winners early on. And that'll drop Monday night on June 21st. So get those entries in before midnight Sunday. And I'm going to go ahead and randomize a winner for the Scott Fishbowl entry. So pretend drum roll here. rounding the table for Will Lutz, Psalms 22 Samuel at Salty Peppers FFL is our winner. So I will reach out to him on Twitter. That's right. I will reach out. And thank you so much, everyone who came on to this live stream. Make sure that you follow Jen on Twitter at The Monday Mommy. Make sure you follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX. You can find me at 2Guys Brandon. Listen every week. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day.
Bye, everybody.